Coming to paperback and e-readers, John Haynes, A Thorn in My Side. The man who rules the world takes on an agent from the CIA from the Black Boule in this action-packed all-new John Haynes series adventure. Pre-order your copy of John Haynes' A Thorn in My Side at Amazon.com and other online booksellers. Two people were killed and 4 people were injured in a mass shooting that took place in a warehouse in Albany, Ohio.
Another breaking news story. Within just the last 20 minutes, police have released new information from a deadly shooting at an Ohio warehouse.
One person was killed and 5 others injured after a shooting at the KDC-1 Cosmetics building in New Albany, which is just outside Columbus. That was late last night.
Our David Greenberg following the investigation for us. So, David, police just released new information about the suspect.
Yeah, guys, that's right. Good morning here. This coming into the newsroom within the last few minutes or so. We now know the identity of that suspect as Bruce Reginald Foster III. We're told he is 6 foot tall, 175 pounds, brown hair, brown eyes. Police say that efforts are underway right now to try and apprehend him. We can also tell you just after 4 a.m., New Albany police obtained a search warrant with a possible address. An Ohio State Highway Patrol helicopter spotted a vehicle matching the suspect's description. Columbus SWAT went to the residence with a search warrant, but it turns out the residence and vehicles were not believed to be connected. So let's catch you up from the very beginning. The shooting happened at the KDC-1 Cosmetics building around 10:30 local time. Officials say at least 1 person died as a result of the shooting, several others wounded. 5 people were transported to a local hospital. The extent of their injuries is currently unknown. Hundreds of people were evacuated from the large building. Law enforcement did not release a motive, but said it appears to be a targeted type of attack. So at this time, we're to assume the suspect is still at large. Of course, we'll keep you updated throughout the morning, both on air and online, as we hear more. Danita?
Well, at least we have a name and identification and details about him. All right, David, thank you.
Now, according to reports, 28-year-old Bruce Reginald Foster III arrived at the KDC-1 Cosmetics warehouse to begin his shift for work. And as he was in the middle of his shift for work around about 10:20 p.m., he allegedly pulled out a firearm and began targeting his co-workers in an alleged mass shooting. And as he participated in this mass shooting, he wound up shooting 6 of his co-workers before one of the co-workers, who was allegedly shot in the neck, wrestled the gun away from Bruce Reginald Foster III, and this is where Bruce Reginald Foster III wound up fleeing the scene of the mass shooting he allegedly participated in, and the law enforcement in Albany, Ohio, went on a 12-hour manhunt. And after going on a 12-hour manhunt, they eventually wound up finding Bruce Reginald Foster III, who had fled the scene in a rideshare vehicle just like the one he used to come to the facility, and police wound up tasering Bruce Reginald Foster III and taking him into custody. And after being taken into custody, he was booked and charged on a count of first-degree murder, and will be possibly booked and counted on another count of first-degree murder, along with other charges as related to this mass shooting. Now, the police in Albany, Ohio, see the behavior of Bruce Reginald Foster III as an isolated incident, and as they look to find a motive for him participating in this alleged act of a mass shooting, they basically think that, again, his behavior is an isolated one. However, when I take a critical examination of Bruce Reginald Foster III's alleged behavior, it definitely fits the pattern and profile for beta males that I talk about in my book, The Man Crisis. And I possibly believe that the motive for murder that Bruce Reginald Foster III had as related to his actions could possibly be his frustrations as related to the overall direction of his life, because when it came to Reginald Foster III, he was looking like a guy who had a lot of promise in his early life, as related to him being an athlete as related to high school. I mean, when he was in high school, he was a quarterback for the football team of his defunct high school, and he was also a person who was enrolled in college and had gotten his associate degree. And he possibly, as he was sitting at this job, at this KDC1 warehouse, basically possibly was frustrated that he was not living up to his potential. And as he was frustrated about not being able to live up to his potential and be able to achieve success, this possibly led to Bruce Reginald Foster III simmering and boiling in anger, possibly sitting there simmering and boiling in anger about having to take this job at a warehouse, and possibly as he was sitting there simmering and boiling in anger, possibly was winding up again extremely frustrated about the overall direction of his life at 28 years old, believing that there was possibly no hope of ever doing any better. That's possibly what happened to this young man, who again was playing quarterback for the Brookhaven High School's varsity football team. I guess he possibly thought, being a quarterback isn't a big deal because, again, a quarterback is the leader of the team. And since he basically felt like he was a leader and a guy who was out here thinking he could accomplish something, he possibly, again, as he went to college and again eventually got his degree in 2019, thought he was going to go on to achieve great success in life. But sadly, he, as related to things, he thought that he possibly could do better than this warehouse job at KDC1. But what he didn't understand is that sometimes success is not about having a prominent position, but it's just about being able to go out here and do what you need to do as a man. And that's something that happens to a lot of guys who basically don't get male life skills or male survival skills. A lot of them basically, since they live in a rose-colored reality, they basically believe that they need, in order to get success, they need to go out here and be somebody who can go out here and do big things, not appreciating the little things that enable you to be a man. Because when I look at Bruce Reginald Foster's life from a critical perspective as a man, he was doing fairly well for himself as a 28-year-old man. I mean, he had a really good job at the KDC1 warehouse, and he was basically making enough money to basically have his own spot. So he was doing all right as a man, but he possibly, again, was frustrated that he wasn't doing better. Moreover, he possibly was having some friction with some co-workers as he was working this job that he possibly thought was beneath him. And as that friction was going on, this possibly led to him simmering and boiling in anger about having to take this job. And as he was simmering and boiling in anger about working this job, this is where everything possibly was escalating for some time, and the co-workers didn't even know it. No, when it comes to many beta males on the job, you'll never know that this guy is basically seething with anger and deeply frustrated about the state of his life, and deeply frustrated about the state of his life until basically somebody pushes the wrong buttons, and that's where these individuals look to explode in this rage that they've had for some time. And that's possibly what happened here with Bruce Reginald the third here. He basically was again simmering and boiling in anger for an extended period of time, and eventually wound up exploding in this rage, where he basically took out this firearm and looked to murder these co-workers, as related to his frustrations about the state of his life, and looked to make them pay for, again, aggravating him. And again, many of those co-workers possibly never knew how angry this dude was. They never knew how angry this dude was because, as I'll repeat it once more, many of these guys, they'll be sitting at the job, sometimes quiet, sometimes they will be talkative, but they will never tell you how angry they are. And as they are sitting there in their anger, this makes these guys, again, ticking time bombs. And again, ticking time bombs because they basically want to get away from this job but again, do not have the critical thinking skills or the problem solving skills to basically work on setting a direction for where they want to go in life. And that's possibly what undermined Bruce Reginald Foster III, which undermines many heterosexual black men out here. A lot of them don't know how to set a course on how to leave a job because the system of white supremacy makes it very hard for black men to, one, get jobs, and two, be able to keep them. And sometimes a lot of black men, they'll stay in a job not understanding the how to, again, set a course to find another job. And since they don't know how to set a course for that, for getting another job, what they do is get frustrated. And instead of, again, understanding that, again, if you want a better job, you just have to go out here and keep making those efforts and working towards getting those connections, and then you can eventually try to leave that job. But in the meantime, you have to go out here and accept that, again, people are going to be out here, and then some people are going to be jerks. But the whole thing is you can't let those people, again, make you act on your feelings. Again, this is where the male life skill of navigating through your emotions is very important. And like I talk about in my book, Stop Simping in the Workplace, you need to learn how to be indifferent on the job, because if you let people get you in your feelings, what will happen is eventually you'll act on the impulse to act on those feelings instead of understanding, yes, I can have the feelings, but I don't act on the feelings because there are more important intangibles that you need to preserve, such as your dignity in having a value of yourself, such as your self-worth and understanding that you have value, and such as understanding the intangible of your freedom. Again, as long as you have your freedom, you can move on from what you believe to be a toxic job and move on from a toxic job because you are free to do so. Unfortunately, Bruce Reginald Foster III didn't understand about those intangibles, and since he didn't understand about those intangibles of dignity, self-respect, and his freedom, he basically let a possible series of slights on the job get to him. And as he let those slights get to him, this is what got him so angry to the point where he acted with malice of possible forethought to go out here and look to murder his co-workers, allegedly, as related to this situation, looked to take the lives of his co-workers, and did this because, again, he was seething in anger about a job that he did not really appreciate, because, again, when it comes down to 28-year-old young men, this job that he may not have thought it was the greatest, working in a warehouse, but when it comes to many college graduates, including myself, I have a college degree. Again, when it comes to the job market, you basically take what you can get until you can go out here and get the job that you want. And again, you take what you can get, and it's like my father used to say when he was alive, a little something is better than nothing. And again, a lot of times when it comes down to beta males, they don't appreciate what they have as related to the job that they have, because to be a guy who's working, who's got his own enough money to be able to pay for his own spot, you're in a good position. You may not have the best job in the world. You may not even have your dream job, but you're in a place where you're able to take care of yourself as a man, and that's something many beta males don't appreciate, the ability to take care of yourself as a man and be able to take care of your own business. And sadly, this guy basically, again, didn't appreciate what he had, because, again, here's a guy, he didn't have his own car. He was taking ride shares back and forth to work, but he at least was working and, again, making good money, because if you're taking ride shares back and forth to work, you're making good money. But this guy could not appreciate his station in life as a man, and because he couldn't appreciate his station in life as a man, this is where he went on the road to becoming a man in crisis who escalated these slights and other issues he was having at work into a mass shooting where he took the lives of 2 of his co-workers and forever changed the lives of 4 others, all because he was caught up in his feelings. And sadly, because he was caught up in his feelings, he went from making good money working at the KDC1 warehouse to now on the road to making 10 cents to $1 an hour in the penitentiary. And when he's in the jail system and the penitentiary, he's not going to be having to deal with coworkers he can leave 8 hours later. He's going to have to deal with the authority of the COs when they're on shift, and he's going to have to also deal with the inmates such as Bubba, Tiny, Roscoe, Big Dave, Melvin, and Mr. Sprinkles, who are a part of the social pecking order of the penitentiary. And when it comes to those men, they will give you a beatdown or a possible shank, or in many cases, since this guy is gone from making good money to making less than no money, from 10 cents to $1 an hour working in the penitentiary, he's basically going to wind up losing more than his freedom. He's going to wind up with his losing all of his dignity, as he's traded for Little Debbie snack cakes, ramen noodles, packets of Crystal Light lemonade, packets of Crystal Light tea, Keef coffee, Taster's Choice coffee, off-brand Oreo cookies, off-brand lemon cookies, off-brand duplex cookies, off-brand lemon cookies, off-brand ginger snaps, prison chips, Fritos chips, hot and sour pickles, Velveeta cheese, snack pack puddings, Fireball candies, and all sorts of items on the commissary. And will go from being a guy who was working a pretty good job to working, having his front side and his back side worked over by Bubba, Tiny, Roscoe, Big Dave, Melvin, and Mr. Sprinkles as they spit roast him, and as they're spit roasting him in exchange for items that he could have gotten from an Arab corner store for under $1, he's going to regret ever getting this upset at his coworkers, because as he's getting worked over during a spit roast, what's going to happen is he's going to realize how much he has lost, as Mr. Sprinkles then goes out here and sprays the front side and the back side with the special sauce, and then calls all the guys from Cell Block D to check out his handiwork as he splits the cheeks open and shows dude's backside looking like the inside of a Louisiana crunch cake. And this is the fate that this man is basically going to have to suffer inside of the penitentiary, because he didn't get the male life skills as a man to understand how the world works for men, and understand that in the world of men, again, it's not about having the prominent job as related to a social situation. If you are making good money and, again, able to live on your own, you're living well as a man. But sadly, what happens is with guys like this is that they buy into narratives from Madison Avenue and Hollywood, which tells them that success is a different standard. This is just me speculating as possibly for the motive of this job, because when it comes down to these jobs, again, at places like warehouses, you got people who want to act really silly and be stupid, and again, don't appreciate the opportunity to be able to work and, again, make a decent wage. But as someone who has been out of work for an extended period of time, I have come to appreciate any job. And again, sometimes, again, when it comes to black men, again, you may not be able to get the job that you dream of, but you get a decent job that's paying you some decent money. And sometimes you got to appreciate that opportunity to go out here and be able to make good money. But sadly, this 28-year-old man didn't appreciate what he had, because he was caught up in the rhetoric of Madison Avenue in Hollywood. And I know where this brother is coming from, because I was there myself when I was working at AmeriCorps Vista as part of the Strive program. Again, I wanted to go out here and, again, get one of those corporate jobs, and I thought I would have an opportunity to be a part of it after the experience at Strive, but it just didn't work out. But I understood, again, if as long as you're out here, again, you have your freedom. And again, success isn't about, you having some big job as an executive or some big job at some company. No, as long as you're able to pay your bills as a man and handle your business, you are a functioning man. And the only person who can turn you into a man in crisis is yourself. If you continue to get caught up in rhetoric, you're the one who can make yourself a man in crisis. And sadly, that's what happened here, possibly with Bruce Reginald Foster III, is he put himself on the road to being a man in crisis because he couldn't appreciate the life he had as a man. And now is going from possibly being, again, a guy who was, again, one of the graduates who was goofing off in a picture that's presented in the Columbia Dispatch, again, a boy who had great promise, to a guy who's going to be in prison for the rest of his life. He's going to be in prison for the rest of his life again, and now is on the road to basically being a man in crisis. A man in crisis who basically didn't have to be there, because had he had an intervention from men, he wouldn't be on the road to life in prison for the murders of 2 people, the attempted murders of 4 others, and basically other charges that are going to be put on him. Sadly, this is a case of a man in crisis who basically didn't have to be there if he had gotten a male intervention to show him how the world worked for men. Now, if you want to learn how to identify the behavior of a beta male and help a man avoid being a man in crisis and help a man get on the track to the real road to success for men, you can pick up my book, The Man Crisis, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find The Man Crisis at other online booksellers like Draft the Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and big box retailers like Walmart and Target. And if you'd like to see me make more videos about men in crisis, you can drop a donation to the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback at e-readers, Isis, Dark Incubus. The goddess next door gets enthralled in a romantic entanglement with an evil incubus in this all-new Isis series adventure. Get your copy of Isis, Dark Incubus in paperback and e-readers today. Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited, The Man Crisis. Learn why so many men are struggling to find their way in an increasingly gynocentric world in The Man Crisis. Get your copy of The Man Crisis in paperback and Kindle Unlimited today. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.